Hi there. So today I wanted to give a demonstration of the system I've been designing. And I wanted to more effectively communicate the potential of such a system and hopefully get you excited about the possibilities for the future, especially in the VR AR space. So what we have in this viewport here is what looks to be a broken slider. You can see the various components of it, but they're not laid out and positioned correctly. Now, that was intentional. I wanted to emphasize that these slider widgets that I've built are procedural in nature, so you can change their properties at runtime. So what we're going to do here is use a slider to edit a slider. So we'll start by, adjusting that center position. Can bring it in a little bit, say about there. Expand the width. And maybe just tuck it underneath that handlebar. Now this ring here is the border width and height, so we can just roughly position it over there. And what we effectively have at this point is more or less our original slider. So that's interesting. We can change the visual appearance of this slider at runtime. And because these are all simple properties, we can also capture that state. And that's what I've done here is on the keyboard, I have the original state, but after some playing, maybe I've captured this state, this visual style for this control with the gaps on the backing, which is quite nice. So you can forget about CSS if you're doing HTML. If you're inside of Unreal Engine, maybe you've worked with UMG, forget that. What's really interesting about this system is the visual appearance. A lot of it comes from the form of the control. So you can explore a lot of different shapes really quickly and then capture those states. So you can go back and switch between styles, like I've shown you here. Now, in addition to that, you could also get really crazy with it because this backing component here is actually built from that linear distribution that we've covered in previous videos. So you could change it to something really weird, maybe give it a little twist. Not very practical, but I just want to emphasize again that these are procedural systems and you can play with them, change their shape, and do all of that at runtime with controls that are very playful. Now, let's talk about the strategy for this a little bit more. So I'm taking a lot of ideas from the motion graphics world, and the idea is to build a toolbox of items. So we've added like the linear distribution, a radial, a grid, and there's a lot more to come. And certainly the complexity of these systems will go up. But just the complexity of the few simple systems we've built today has led to a lot of interesting abstract work. If you've seen my YouTube channel, you've seen some of that. But you can also use it to build more practical things. So a demonstration of that and what I've been showing you is around the user interface, and it also feeds into the user experience. Now, I think UI and UX is just as important as the systems we're building. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough either. Now, the reason for that is a couple of things. So one, when I'm using these systems that we built to build something practical, the user interface portion of this, we're basically stress testing these. We're testing out, are these practical? Can I build things using these systems? And the answer appears to be yes. So we can build practical systems, we can build abstract systems, and what we can do on this side is then build some controls. Now this is very important. So we have a slider control, we have a button control, and more controls to come. And the complexity will go up as well. And what that allows us to do is tie into the user experience. If we make it fun and interesting and easy to edit, these guys, okay, we can then make really cool user interface. So what we do is we have this kind of like feedback loop where we can build one upon the other. We can build new systems, tie those systems into a great user interface and experience, or sorry, use these systems to build a great user interface, which leads to a great user experience, which leads back to this more interesting motion graphic systems. And it allows the user to explore this space here, because there is a lot of potential in these systems, and you need a really great way to go and explore the different shapes and forms and colors of those in real time. And the ability to capture these systems at runtime is also important. So like you saw here, I could change the styling. Now I haven't added this feature yet, but if I like the look of this control, I could then apply that styling to all of these controls. And another idea is when I change between stylings, I can animate those changes. So you could animate the visual appearance between one style sheet and another, or you could use it for transition in and out effects. So an example of a transition in effect is maybe the scaling or position of these individual parts are, way out in space. And then for the second state, it looks like this. So then if you animate between those, the pieces would fly in from the edges and construct themselves in front of you in real time. That is totally possible. I just need to wire that system up. I have a few components of it already built. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the 3D nature of this and why that's important as well, because you can take this control, you can use it on the PC here, rendering an orthographic viewport, but this can also exist in VR or AR, and you could manipulate these controls in that space as well. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And if you were to get into VR with a bunch of these controls, you might think that's pretty expensive, but this control here has 100, is built out of cubes first off. There's 100 for the backing, and then 8 for the border, 3 here. So it's 100 and 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 for the handle. 112 particles. That is not a lot of particles. So you could have tons of these controls. And if you extrapolate this out, or not even, if you just look at today's performance of GPUs, you could have thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of particles rendering in real time. 5 years from now, millions of particles. So what if you were to build a user interface and a user experience that was based on a particle system? Well, I think you can create Iron Man type user experiences in VR in the near future if you had a lot of the pieces, and that just blows my mind. Even a year or two ago, I never would have thought that was possible, but a year or two from now, I could see it being totally possible with a system that is designed like this. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you are at a company that would like me to build you such a system, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm looking to do this full time, and I'm kind of shocked Epic hasn't offered me a job yet. I think this would be of significant importance to a future user interface system and building really incredible user experiences in the future. So I'm out there. If you're interested in me building such a system for you, whether it's proprietary or even on a different technology stack, let me know. And yeah, I'll just keep on trucking in my spare time with this, and hope to talk to you soon. Cheers.